Hello, everyone. Morphy here. And today I'm delighted to be speaking to somebody I've followed for quite a while on Twitter, Ebony Skeptic, or for the purposes of this conversation, ES. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got a few
Can you hear
things.
me?
We've got a few things to cover today, and let's get on with it.
Okay.
Okay, so I found this on the timeline that your experience in Hurricane Katrina is one of the things that started you questioning faith. That's back in 2005. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about that. But 2005 is now 15 years ago, so I'd imagine quite a bit's changed in that time as well. So where do you
Yes.
want to go with that?
Um. Wow. I don't know. I guess if I just talk about it, it can take me back in the past, and then I can let you know where the whole transition of there's no God just came to me, because this was a reality check. This was when I was a devoted Christian, doing everything right. I went to theological seminary and everything. And then when Hurricane Katrina happened, and I've witnessed people sitting on top of the roofs for 3 days, dehydrated, dying, and these people are praying to God and nothing happens. This was like, I thought God was, just and caring, because, in the South, you still have your racism. So when the rescue came to get people, unfortunately, they were only rescuing the white people, and they left the black people on top of the roofs, and a lot of people got dehydrated. So, this was already, injustice going on in a tragedy, a natural disaster. And then the whole thing with my parents separating, I was with my well, he wasn't my husband back then, but I was with my husband, and we went to Laredo, Texas, and my parents, they were supposed to follow us, but they got stranded, somewhere in Louisiana. I don't even know the name of the town. And then they got separated again. So it was crazy. And all my faith just went out of the window. And this was a reality check to me. It's like, this God that's supposed to be just and supposed to, help out his people, didn't help out his people. And he was like, well, if it's a trial and tribulation. I said, so is God a sadist? Why do we have to suffer? Why, if we're doing everything good by him, why do we have to suffer? And this was, beyond what I don't know. You had to be there, because seeing dead bodies floating in water, that was something I thought I would never ever see. That was like unreal. Something you see in a movie. So this was my reality check, that there cannot be a God, you know, for that reason. And I have other reasons, but this was my, I'm gonna say my epiphany, you know.
Yeah.
So
So
if you have any
a lot of
questions.
a lot of Christians would come back on that one with you by saying that perhaps you're angry at God or mad at God because of this experience. How would you respond to that?
Well, I would say I am angry at God. I think we have every right to be angry at God. But at the same time, I'm angry at God because he plays hide and go seek with people. Like, how long do we have to keep believing and, going through the motion of, just have this faith, and he's working through us? Well, how do we know he's working through us? This is all anecdotal. There's no proof. We all, humans, we had to do everything ourselves. Like, for instance, my dad, he wanted to stay at his house. And I was like, Dad, if you stay, you're gonna die. And the thing is, my parents' house was underwater, and my dad wanted to stay. So I I never cussed out my parents. I cussed out my dad. I said, you need to get the fuck out of here. And I gave him all my money in my savings account at the time. I didn't have much money, probably like $2,000, what they do. I gave him all my money because he was like, well, I don't have any money to go. I don't have gas money. I was like, look, here's $2,000. Take it. Go. And he listened to me. I mean, he was mad at me because I cussed him out, but he listened to me. Imagine if he stayed. Imagine if he, I'm going to go with God and, stay because there's no storm coming. He would have died. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's always humans that have to do things. I mean, it's a human that discovered penicillin with COVID, which we'll talk about a little bit coming up, because that will take us in 2020. And you talk about that. If there's a vaccine that comes out for that will be created by a human. And that just seems to me that people with a lot of God will do it, God will do it, God will do it. And every time anything actually gets done, it's a person that does it.
Exactly. But you know what? They'll say God, Holy Spirit is working in that person. That's their excuse. I've been hearing that all my life. Oh, it's the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is sinking to you. I've been hearing that forever. I've never heard it.
It's what's known as an unfalsified. So the next thing
I
wanted to talk about was your tweet about Doug Ducey not giving in to peer pressure for science deniers and having a stay-at-home order. How is that working? Are people still going to church and stuff, or what's going on?
No, Arizona's pretty strict. No, you know what? Let me go back. There's only one church that's allowed to congregate because they're following the due to 5. They're doing social distancing. It's not a lot of people that can come in to the church, but there's only one church that's allowed because they're doing social distancing. But every other church in Arizona, which there's a gazillion, the churches are closed. And there's a banner in front of the church and it says to congregate online, live online. And I'm actually proud of that, even though they're Christians. I'm actually happy that they're actually following the laws. So, nobody won't get sick. So even though they're religious, they still secretly believe in science, That's how I see it, They'll never admit it, though,
I
have any more questions?
Yeah, I just think that there is there's always a spectrum for Christians. So, I've got a friend who's Christian who works in renewable energy and often gets into arguments in his church because he says climate change is real and all this sort of stuff. So to me, he's religious, but he's not dangerously so because he does accept science. The problem is this fundamental. You saw the video the other week with the covered in the blood of Christ woman.
Oh yeah.
This is where the real problem is, and of course, people like that come out of church rather than shaking hands and close proximity to other people who may well be sick with this disease, and then they go into the supermarket and they mix with us.
Yeah,
that's where I see the problem.
It's their and to be honest, yesterday when I was going to my other job, I was at the supermarket and we got one of these science deniers. He refused to wait in line to get into the store because the capacity is 100. You only allow 100 people in the store. So there's a bunch of store employees standing outside, and they have their sign. It was like, okay, you got to wait until this person comes out. And this guy went crazy. Like those idiots with the guns. He was like, you're treading on my rights, and this is stupid, and COVID is not real, and they just called security, and security just took him off property. I'm glad because he was making a scene. He was like, you guys aren't American, whatever. It was crazy. So you do have your you crazy people that's just trying to, make it worse for the rest of us. We just want this stuff to go away. We want to, how do you say, bring the curve down. But you have these idiots who are denying it. I have two co-workers. They're are you familiar with Alex Jones?
I'm not.
Because oh really? Oh, I gotta tell you about him. But he's a conspiracy theorist. And he has a show. It was on YouTube, but it got banned because he shoot, I can't remember. It had to do with the Sandy Hook incident, but that's another topic. But she follows him, and the guy is like a conspiracy theory king. So this coworker, she's like, well, COVID-19 is not real. Nobody died from COVID-19. Nobody's getting sick. This is a government conspiracy. This is the Democrats trying to, overthrow the president. I hear that every day. I ignore it. It's crazy.
Well, that's probably
but
with the...
but one more thing.
Yeah.
People are wearing masks though. So I'm happy that everybody's wearing masks.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, that should help with at least the droplet being expelled from people when they're coughing and stuff.
Right.
That's good.
Right. So people are wearing masks, and I'm proud of America because I don't know what's wrong with Americans, but we are stubborn people. We're stubborn and stupid. It's just, I'm being honest. It is what it is.
I don't know if you ever listened to Sam Harris's podcast, but
which one?
Making Sense.
I probably didn't listen to that one. I have a lot of his audio books, but I haven't listened to his podcast. I have yet to listen to his podcasts.
Yeah, he had a couple of former military guys on the other day, and they were talking about the COVID crisis and one thing and another, and how their experience of working in like Afghanistan and Iraq and places like that is directly relevant to responding to a crisis like COVID. And they were saying, so if we just go back to Hurricane Katrina, when that was on, when there was rebuilding to be done, Americans all sort of muck in and help build each other's back up and all this sort of stuff. And they're saying that showed the best of America. Americans want to muck in and help. Whereas the way they've helped with COVID is stay at home, don't help people, and it almost goes against the psyche of the American people.
Yep. Yes. I have a sister. Well, I told you about my sister, and she refused to wear her mask in a gas station. This is in Texas, of course. And they told her she couldn't come in, and she got mad. And it's like, if you don't abide by the rules, we're gonna call the cops. So she went home, and she nagged about it to my other sisters. So I don't understand these people. They're selfish, They don't care. They're so into their beliefs, And she's right wing. She's a conservative, and I think she's a Trump supporter. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that.
Okay. So we've kind of already covered this. Is this thing that you retweeted about church and the coronavirus, and so we've covered that a little bit, but the thought that I had when I first saw this is, do these people not actually realise what a virus actually is? And they seem not to. It's a virus doesn't care about your beliefs. It doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care about your race, your sexual orientation. It doesn't care about any of those things. It just gets transmitted into your system and starts attacking you. With something like the coronavirus, or this novel coronavirus, it's a new disease to humans. So none of us have any resistance. And seem to get it. They're just staying 2 meters away from people, or sorry, that's just over 6 feet for you. Staying 2 meters away from people and just following some basic protocols, hand cleaning regularly and all this sort of stuff can actually help stop the spread of this. Whereas, as far as any of us can tell, Jesus is not going to stop the spread. I don't know if you've got any extra thoughts on that at all.
Let's I'm gonna put on my Christian hat, because I was a Christian for 16 years, and this is me explaining the coronavirus as a Christian. This would be adversity. This would be, because we live in a world of sin, and sin is in our flesh, and sin is the world. And as a Christian, we're in a spiritual world. So the coronavirus is a phase of adversity, and it has to happen. And if one of us die of coronavirus, it's because God is calling us to go to heaven. But if coronavirus has to happen, it's just a phase. It's the world, because the world is evil and the world is full of sin, and a lot of bad things are going to happen until Christ comes back. Now I'm taking my Christian hat off.
No. I need you to put it back on for a second.
Okay.
So basically, this coronavirus is just another symptom of Eve eating the fruit from the tree of knowledge.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. It's sin.
I coming from obviously, I obviously come from England, which is very secular. There's not a huge number of religious people. Well, there are religious people, but they're not fundamentalists, most of them. And I was brought up with parents who sort of believed in something, if you know what I mean. And to have this sort of view that there actually was an Adam and Eve, and that we live in this fallen world because they ate from the tree of knowledge, to me, that sounds completely bonkers. It's completely contrary to what we see in reality every day. And I don't know if you can sort of elaborate more on why they think that it actually does fit with reality.
Give me an example. I need an example. Like, are we related to like today with all this?
Yeah. So we've had various.
I just need
Let's say we've had pandemics like the Spanish flu, which I believe didn't actually make it to Australia, but it killed a lot of people back in 1918, and now we've got the coronavirus. And what scientists are saying is that these types of events are probably once every 50 years or once every 100-year type events, that we get a crossing over of a virus that's actually quite infectious and quite deadly. And there's good scientific reasons why that happens, because when a virus becomes endemic in a species, like many of them are in us, our immune systems are well adapted to dealing with that, and we tend not to get very, very sick and die. Whereas what we got here is a virus that, from what I've read, and it might be corrected as time goes on, seems to have transferred into humans from bats. So bats are well adapted to it and don't drop dead of this coronavirus all the time. But humans, a good proportion of, or some proportion of us, are going to die. Now that's the scientific explanation, but the Christian seems to say, well, that's from the fallen world. Well, how do they map that to reality and not accept the scientific explanation?
Because they're so one, you have to realize that Christians are emotionally connected to the Bible, what the Bible says, because they believe that that's Jesus speaking to them, in spirit through text. So because they believe this so strongly, whatever happens in the Bible, whether it's the Old Testament and New Testament, which I don't even know why they put those two Bibles together. They have nothing to do with each other at all. They put these stories together and they make sense of the world. I'm not a big fan of the Old Testament, so I can't really give you the scriptures. But I know there was one scripture where, God said, if these people don't, turn away from their gods, then he won't heal their land. So basically, God would allow all these bad things to happen, and there's even a scripture where he would have the parents to eat their children because that's how bad it's going to get until they, come to him. So in the meantime, all these bad things are going to happen, and they're happening because we're sinners and we have to bow down to him, in order to get healed. But this is where the contradictory comes. You look at Job. Job did everything right, and he got fucked over. So it makes no sense. But my answer is that we're sinners. The world's going to end soon.
Okay, so something I saw from you this week, and I think we responded. We had a bit of backwards and forwards on this one. I don't know what's more annoying: an old rich white person superiority complex, or an uppity rich black person who thinks they're better than you. I swear I hate people. Something triggered you this week. What was it?
So my second job, I'm at a bank. I work at a bank, and it's in a rich area, and there aren't many black people in that area, but I work over there. So when these rich people who I guess don't see a lot of minorities, they're annoyed by the idea that they see a black person, and it's 2020. I don't know why racist people still exist, but the looks that I got from this one lady was, it's like when she saw me, she was disgusted that there's a black person in this particular area. These are these are billionaires. These people have money. I just work there. I don't care about them. I just work there. But the idea that she saw me and she was like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Excuse you? What are you doing here?" Working. And she didn't continue because I guess she realized other people were listening to her, so she just walked out. And then after that, like 2 hours later, this religious Southern Baptist black woman came in who also had money. And she looked at me and she just had this attitude. And she was like she just had this presence, like she was better than me. And I'm like, we're we're black. I'm black, you're black. Why are you treating me like garbage? Simply because, she's rich and, I'm but barely making it. But she just had this attitude, and she was religious, have a blessed day, in a very arrogant way. Have a blessed day, child, and I'm like, what I didn't do anything. I just said, how you doing? Have a great day to both of them, and they were just so arrogant. And I don't understand it. And with black people it's different because this country has a very ugly history of slavery, and then the whole Jim Crow era where black people were getting killed by these crazy racist white people. And we had to keep proving ourselves that, hey, we're people. And when I see arrogant rich black people, I'm like, don't you know your past? Don't you know that we all struggled at one time? Why are you treating me like garbage? But with white people, I'm not saying that I expect it, but when it happens, I'm like, oh great, this person's racist. That's why, changing the subject, that's why I keep my hair this color, because when my hair is black, I get treated like shit. I really do. And people's like, well, you should accept who you are. I do. But whenever my hair is black, I get treated like garbage. So I keep my hair this color so people won't profile me, follow me in stores, and give me shit. Arizona has subtle racism. it is what it is, you know. But that's it for that, you know.
I mean, yeah, it's sad to hear that that's still going on in, this century. But I think what I came back to you with was that, there are people who feel entitled in just about the graphic that you can think of. And we have people in this country, a great deal, people, and I'm sure you've got them, people who just think that the law doesn't apply to them. And on my screen, I've got a picture of a single cab ute, because quite often over here in Australia, the people who are like this actually drive this type of vehicle. They're not exclusively, but they quite often do. And we have a term that you almost certainly won't have heard, called hoon, which is a description of somebody who drives like a maniac. Somebody who drives like a maniac is a hoon. And I'll be coming home from work, and our speed limit on our freeways is 100 kilometers an hour, which is 62.5 miles an hour. And I just stick to that. And so does almost everybody else. And then you'll get one of these complete assholes driving one of these vehicles, and you see them in the mirror from miles behind, zipping in and out of the lanes of traffic, every time they get a chance, going up to 150. And I've even seen them go onto the hard shoulder to overtake people. I've actually been overtaken I've been overtaken by somebody going on a grass verge. The vast majority of people see the laws of the land, but the law just doesn't apply to these people. And
nope.
Yeah, the funny thing was, it's not funny to start with. I was a witness to a fatal accident that involved one of these sorts of drivers a little while ago.
Oh, no.
So I was sitting next to this guy at the lights, and the lights changed, and we pulled away, and just ahead, I suppose a couple of 100 meters ahead, there was a flatbed truck with a guy up a ladder. Well, not up a ladder, but in like a crane, fixing a light. So he was fixing a light. And I deliberately didn't go very fast to try and give this guy inside me a chance to pull out into my lane so he could get past the flatbed. And he wasn't paying attention. I could see he was texting. And he just drove straight into the flatbed, which decapitated him. So he's dead. But of course, the guy up in the falls off, and it killed him as well. Fatal accident. Obviously, I was on the scene, so I had to fill in a report. And on the report, there was a question. This is the funny bit. It's driving, and one of the options was hoon. And I thought it was just a slang word that everybody used for people to drive like idiots. But it was actually there on an official police form, the word hoon. But generally, I mean, that's a guy who's driving along, isn't going particularly fast, but he wasn't obeying the law, the law on his phone, not paying attention, and he went straight into the flatbed. And I to try and give him room, I did myself slow down, go onto the grass verge. I tooted my horn to try and attract his attention. None of it made any difference. He just drove straight into this flatbed. Absolutely crazy. And this is the problem with people who are entitled, who think the law doesn't apply to them. It's not just the attitude that they give people like you. To be, a really dangerous attitude to have. I think as people, we're just all in this together at the end of the day. And people who don't think like that are a danger.
But they like, I don't know if it was you that mentioned classes, or maybe it was somebody else. You know how there's different classes of people. But I don't know if I was talking to you. But
no, it wasn't me, but yeah. It wasn't me, but I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, this homeless lady called me a nigger, and she was like, because I didn't give her cash, because she wanted cash so she can, shoot up. I said, I'll feed you, but I'm not going to give you cash. She said, oh, you're a useless nigger anyway. I'm better than you. Like, you're homeless and you don't have legs. You're in a wheelchair. Are you fucking crazy? I'm like, I hate people. You know, she thought she was better than me simply because she's white. I'm like,
yeah. I think
you're homeless.
I think there's a class system still in the UK. Certainly, when I grew up, the class system was still very much in place because I'm from a very working background, and there's certainly glass ceilings in place, and it's one of the things that's nicer about Australia. There's less of that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we go by classes, I don't know if they still say white collar and stuff, but, they go by, your income, if you make this such amount, then you're poor. If you make this, you're middle class. If you make this, you're rich. And then, beyond, where the snobs come.
I think it's okay to have the sort of blue collar, white collar thing, as long as there's social mobility, as long as the fact that you're from a blue collar background doesn't mean that you can't go, if you're smart enough, that you can't go to Yale or Harvard and become white collar yourself. If you see what I mean.
I don't know. I mean, I know people who came from nothing and, they made it to Yale or Harvard and, they're still treated as if they're from, the ghetto or the trailer park or whatever. That's just people. This is why people annoy me. Like, I know I have to work and I have to deal with people, I have to put on my mask and deal with these people. But deep inside, this like the idea that we're doing a quarantine and we have to stay home, I love it.
Okay, next talking point is, of course, the tangerine in chief himself, Donald Trump. And I love the tweet that you retweeted from Jim Carrey of Donald Trump drinking shout to try and get rid of his coronavirus. Shout it out. Fantastic. So, what's your take on this, and what's your take on Trump in general?
He's an idiot. I think he's our second celebrity president. Wasn't I think the first one was Ronald Reagan. I'm not sure. I think he was also an actor. But Trump, everything about him is, this white privileged rich guy, and I think that's how he got his votes. He has his education level has to be of a third grade. He can't articulate. The guy, I mean, he's not smart at all, but you have these rich people that's gonna, endorse him simply because, he's giving the Republicans all these tax breaks. That's the only reason why I can think that he's still in office. I mean, this guy, he gets away with so much. He says racist things. He says misogynistic things. He's a xenophobe. And yet, he's still being praised. I have Black friends that are Trump supporters and they're Christian and they make excuses for Trump. They was like, oh, well, he's like this guy in the Bible that was married to a whore and God gave him a break anyway. I forget the scripture, and the whole thing with Trump in his picture, drink and shout. I actually had a dialogue with somebody about Trump talking about injecting what was it, Lysol? Was it Lysol?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And he was trying to say, I actually tweeted that. I tweeted the conversation I had with this person on Facebook. He was like, that's not what Trump said. I'm like, that's what he said. And he was trying to, be a Trump whisperer and say that's not what he was saying. And then what? 2 days later, Trump said that I was being sarcastic. Yes, that's what he said. That's what he was saying. And, I just hate when people try to make excuses for Trump. And then Trump comes back and reiterate exactly what he said. I'm like, so you're making excuses for this guy. And he just said, yeah, I said that. So I don't understand. I don't understand this country. I don't understand Trump supporters. Like, I don't, there's an atheist. I don't know if you're following him. I blocked him because he's a fucking idiot. But he was telling me that Trump Trump didn't deny COVID-19. Where I don't know if you were watching the news when he said it was a hoax, but I know I was watching the news and it was all over the, the internet. And this atheist was like, he didn't say that. No, he didn't say that. We don't hear him out. He has ways of saying things. He's the president. He can't have anybody to speak for him anymore. He can't have somebody to talk to him. It's like, hey, say this, don't say that. No, so he's a fucking idiot, and I don't want him. I hope Biden wins. I know we had a lot of the Bernie people. I'm not for Bernie Sanders, and I know I lost a lot of followers because I started tweeting against Bernie Sanders, but it is what it is. But I really hope Biden wins. I mean, yeah, he's an old coot too. He has his issues too, but that's a different topic. But what is it? The lesser of two evils? I would prefer Biden over Trump any day. Trump's a fucking idiot. That's the best way to describe him. He's a fucking idiot.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you said about all the tax breaks that he's giving to the Republicans. I mean, he's also appointed an awful lot of right-wing Christian judges, on over 200, I believe, which is going to, it's going to impact the US.
Yeah, they all did something criminal, and he likes to, have criminals, part of his team. I don't understand that. It makes no sense, But these evangelicals, what's that guy name? That Christian name. Like when Trump scandal with the porn star, he was trying to say, well, that's Trump's business. That's none of our business. This is a Christian person saying that's none of our business. Yeah, right. If I was a Christian, I was like, well, if he cheated on his wife with a porn star when his wife was pregnant, like that's adultery. That's wrong. That's a bad example to show, to young people. But these people are with Trump because Trump is doing things for them. They don't give a shit about Trump, because you know what happens when these people turn on Trump? Then they come out with these books and stuff. They come out with these interviews how they really didn't like Trump. It happens all the time. It's just funny.
The whole tax break scenario is an interesting one, because one thing that's been apparent here is that obviously there's been economic impacts of the pandemic. And one thing I know for sure is that I could afford to pay an extra couple of % tax. And I think most people who are earning over a certain amount could afford to pay an extra couple of % tax. And that money could actually be sitting there as a slush fund for when we have these emergencies. And,
right.
Basically they've had to print more money. They've had to take on more debt. The economy was going pretty well here in Australia, and we were actually going to have a surplus this year. Well, of course, that surplus has been wiped out by the fact that they've had to make so many payments to people who have lost their income. And
yeah,
it just seems to me that when times are good, actually paying a little bit more tax probably makes no difference to what I can buy at the supermarket or whether or not I can pay my electric bill. But it might make a difference when you get these situations that come along every, 20 years, 50 years. It doesn't hurt anybody. So people who are already rich wanting a tax break, to me, is just, they can afford to pay more in order to help other people.
But that's another thing. When Trump became president, he started to get rid of all these programs like Obama had, like control center of disease. They had a lot of departments, but Trump got rid of them. And now that COVID-19, is here, they're behind in resources and stuff because, we don't have a department for this area anymore. We're struggling. That's why it's so bad out here. I mean, it's ridiculous because when Obama was president, we were prepared for stuff like this. We don't have anything right now. We're slowly but surely, trying to get these departments back and running. That's why, you can't find, the mask. You can't find anything. You can't find hand sanitizers because Trump, you know.
Right. Another talking point that I wanted to go for was, I know that you're planning to do a podcast, and I think we had some interaction about that probably about 6 months ago.
You broke up just a little bit. I missed the last thing that you said.
Okay, so I was asking about the how close you are to getting your podcast going, and what the scope is going to be of your podcast. At least initially, what are you aiming to achieve with it?
Okay, I'm gonna give myself 2 months because I already ordered most of my equipment and stuff. And there's actually some people that I've talked to. This podcast is going to be talking about Black atheism, and not because most people are shocked that there's a Black atheist. Oh, you're a unicorn. No, there's plenty of Black atheists. You know where they are? They're sitting in the church pews. They're afraid to come out. But the problem with Black atheism, especially in America, is that they hold on to pseudoscience simply because of our history, with slavery. You have a lot of these Black atheists that are, they follow the pro-Black movement. I don't know. Have you ever heard of the pro-Black movement? Are you familiar with Black Lives Matter? I know you
absolutely.
Probably heard of it.
Yeah.
Well, Black Lives Matter happened in 2013, when the police were shooting Black people. I don't know if you've seen that on TV or not, but we had, a lot of these Black atheists and these pro-Black people, trying to come up with these ideologies of, making a Black utopia, screw the white man and all that stuff. And this is not getting us anywhere, because at the end of the day, we're all humans. Yes, race is bicultural. And, these Black atheists, a lot of them don't believe that. They're still holding on to these, what can I say? I'm going to say these pro-Black ideologies. There's also a term, have you ever heard of a hotep?
I have not.
Okay, hoteps are these Black extremists that, that are trying to get their world back because they believe the white man took everything from them. And you have Black atheists that are also hoteps. So Black atheists, not all of them, but too many of them they're scatterbrained. They're all over the place. And in my podcast, I have another friend that I talk to. We always discuss these issues within a Black atheist community, because you still have misogyny in a Black atheist community. You have, it's a misogyny. I know the biggest one is misogyny, because in a Black community, believe it or not, a lot of Black men, they see women, I don't know if you knew that or not, but that's an issue within the Black community, and it's worse in the atheist Black community. So, I want to talk about all those things and probably, get other people, who aren't Black to see what's also going on. Because I know a lot of, non-Black atheists, when they see a Black atheist, they say, oh, Black atheist, because, our history is Christianity or Muslim, or I have a few aunts that's into Haitian voodoo. But, but mostly most Black people are Christian. So when you see a Black person, you don't expect them to be an atheist. But then when you deal with a Black atheist, what kind of Black atheists are, what are they? Are they open-minded? Are they rational thinkers? Do they follow science? Or they're following pseudoscience? And I deal with way too many Black atheists that are into pseudoscience. And it's ridiculous. And it's going to be a lot to cover. I have a friend that's more in tune with politics and stuff on that part. I'm still getting to politics and stuff, but this has been my hugest my biggest issue with Black atheism, and it's like nobody's talking about it. You know, when you hear about minority atheists, you think that is cool, but you don't know what's going on within that community. There's a lot of shit going on in that community. You know, I on Google Plus, I was a moderator in a white atheist group. It was cool and all, but you know, I felt small because I was black and a female, and I felt my voice wasn't being heard because you know they just think because oh we're all human beings and we're all atheists. No, and when you're a person of color, you have other issues, you know. And if I can talk about those things for people who aren't black, you know, they can say, oh, okay, these are their issues. You know, let's hear them out. But yeah, that's pretty much
I'm
it.
actually quite surprised about that because I would have thought that if you were in a group where you have somebody who is a minority representative of that group, that you actually want to listen more to what they say because it's not the same uniformity you're getting from everybody else.
Right. No, it's like I'm not saying like be a spy and make a fake like black person avatar and see what it's like in black atheist groups. But if you can, you'll probably, you know, just for a learning purpose, not you know, not to start shit or anything. You'll see how it is in those groups or any groups of color because you know they all have you know their own cultural issues and stuff, and you can learn from those things, and you can I mean our goal is to get to the truth. You know, we care about what's true, we care about what's demonstrable, you know. And I just hate when I'm in a group of people who claim to be atheist and agnostic and they're holding on to pseudoscience. You know, they're holding on to conspiracy theories. You know, it shouldn't be like that. We should always hold on to the truth. And if we don't know, we don't know. And I've been kicked out of a lot of black atheist groups, you know, because I'm the troublemaker. You know, oh well, we don't do it. They would be like, we don't roll that way. Oh well, we don't like to talk about logic and reason. We don't like talking about you know logical fallacies. You know, we're just a bunch of non-believers, and we you know we want to have fun. I'm like, well, I don't want to be a part of this. I'm interested in the whole intellectual you know part of the group. I don't care about all that other stuff. But yeah, that's what I want to talk about. You know, just express it. You know. You're a little ranting, you know.
Have you approached people like Mandisa Thomas and any of those sort of people?
I haven't. I mean, I follow Mandisa, and Mandisa. I mean, her narrative is a little different. She's more of a she's kind of like more customer service oriented. You know, she's you know who Matt Dillahunty is, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
From the Atheist Experience.
Yeah.
You know, I think we need like a black version of Matt Dillahunty. We don't have one, you know? We need somebody to just be out there and be like, I'm an asshole and you're going to hear my truth, you know? And in a black atheist, like we have Mandisa, we have Sikivu, I cannot say her name, Sikivu Hutchinson, and we have a few others. We just need somebody to we need a Matt Dillahunty in the black atheism realm. I'll put it like that. I know I'm giving Matt clout, you know, he probably don't care, but we need somebody to be a little more outspoken, especially with black atheism.
All right. So, just as a last thing, unless there's anything else that you want to bring up, but I think we've covered quite a lot of material today. Cats. So you have Snow, who, as you say, is looking very high and mighty in the picture there, and cats do have this way of looking very high and mighty, don't they? It's, as we've discussed already today, yeah. It's not that becoming in people, but in cats, it's very becoming when they get that haughty look on. I'm a big cat lover myself. In fact, yeah, all animals, and I personally think the best animals are rescue animals. And I think people treat animals very badly, and I want to see animals treated better in general. So what's your thought on cats and animals and rescues and all the rest of it?
Let's go to, well, this is sort of a sad story. I had a feral cat. Well, he wasn't mine, but he was at my job. I'll send you some pictures. His name was Oscar because he was grouchy, like Oscar the Grouch from Sesame Street. And every time he sees me, he would hiss at me. He'd be like, I was like, "Hey, Oscar," and he hisses all the time. And he was a beautiful cat. He was dirty though, and he wouldn't let me touch him. And the first time I met Oscar, he was in the dumpster at my job, and we just caught eyes with each other. You know, we were like paused, like, because I think we scared each other. We were looking at each other. And then when I tried to get close, he ran off. So then I started leaving, food there. So then he got used to me. So, he was kind of like, I know this sounds crazy, but every time I saw Oscar, I had this joy in my heart, and he made me feel like, wanted. And every time I got to work, I was just waiting to see Oscar. And he knew my vehicle because he peed on it, but he knew my vehicle. Like, he knew when I came to work, and he would come running. And even though I couldn't touch him, he would hiss, but he knew I would feed him. And he was around my job for 3 years. And then I waited too long to, take him in. So I didn't see him anymore. And I read that feral cats get worms, heartworms, and they probably die. And that was the last time I saw Oscar. So I was, when he was gone, I was just sad. I was like, I miss Oscar. I was like, I need a cat. So then I saw Snow in one of these ads on the internet, and I went and got him. I think he was, I don't know if he was 5 weeks old. He was a little small cat. And my husband and I just fell in love with Snow because he hates cats, but like when I show you pictures with Gus, my husband, and Snow, they're like, that's like his son. And whenever Snow runs outside, which he's not allowed to go outside because his vet bills are very expensive. Yeah, we spend $2,000 on a cat. But if Snow runs outside, my husband, he's like depressed and he's freaking out, and he's like, you got to get him back inside. I was like, he's gonna come back, So he learned to like cats. I love cats. I always loved cats. When I was a child, we found a cat, and that cat multiplied to like 12 cats. So we had a lot of cats at one time, but back then we didn't know how to take care of cats. And then we got a dog. It was a child mixed with a German Shepherd, and sadly he started eating them. I know, we would go outside and the cats would be in pieces and stuff, so we had to get rid of the dog because he was eating the cats. I know, dogs can be terrible, but I love cats. I don't know, cats kind of like represent my personality, because I can be a bitch, and I think cats are bitches at times. and I don't know if you see pictures where I wear cat ears and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've seen them. Yep.
Everything about cats, and even though cats can't talk back, when I'm bored, I talk to Snow. And I know he don't give a shit what I'm saying, but the idea that he's looking at me and I'm talking, I feel like he's talking to me, even though I know he's not. And like I tell people, I said, I can die an old cat lady, and the cat can eat my corpse, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, I talk to mine as well. I even if I'm going out, I tell them what time I'll be back. I mean, I wouldn't want them to worry.
But they know you're gonna come back, though. They know you're gonna come back. And I like when just like dogs, but when you open a door, they say cats don't care. But when I see my cat come to the door and his tail's up, and he kind of like, do the little thing when they wrap around your leg, they're hungry, but you feel loved. They say cats don't care as much as dogs, but I don't know. I sort of disagree because they did a research where, they tested the owner with a cat and a dog, and they seen how much dopamine was released from the brain from the cat and the dog. The dog had a shit ton of dopamine when he saw his master. The cat had a little bit, not that much. But I think it depends on the owner. I mean, I love my cat, I think he needs a playmate because I'm tired of him attacking me. Like he attacks me all the time. Like my arm, people think I cut myself. It's just cat, I play with him and he plays with me. He sees all these scars and stuff. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, but I love cats. That's all I can say. I love cats.
Yeah, me too. I'm a big cat lover. I always have been. Yeah, I've always had cats really all my life, really. So yeah, just when we were renting, we couldn't have cat. But other than that, I've always had one. Anyway, we're getting to the end of this, and my battery's getting to the end of its life. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this conversation. And
no problem.
Maybe we'll have another chat again sometime. Maybe after your podcast is going, and we'll see how that's going. That'd be great.
Oh, absolutely. Let's see what happens.
Thank you so much.